My daughter was in surgery for 13 hours, fighting for her life while my family didn't call once. 3 days later, my dad asked for $3,500 for my brother's party. I sent 1 cent, cut them off, and watched their world burn. This is where the real storm begins, and trust me, you won't believe how deep the entitlement runs. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the fallout. We'd love to know, what's the most outrageous request a family member has ever made of you? Let us know in the comments. The smell of a hospital waiting room is a specific kind of psychological torture. It is a cocktail of antiseptic floor cleaner, stale coffee, and the metallic tang of terrified adrenaline. I had been inhaling it for 12 hours and 45 minutes. I was sitting in a plastic chair that had long ago stopped being uncomfortable and had simply become a part of my numb anatomy. My hands were clasped so tightly in my lap that my knuckles had turned a translucent white, the skin stretched taut over the bone. Every time the double doors at the end of the hallway swung open, my heart hammered against my ribs with such violence I thought it might actually crack them. My daughter, Arya, was behind those doors. 14 years old, a curvature of the spine that had gone from watch and wait to urgent intervention in the span of 6 months. The surgery was a massive spinal fusion. They were opening up my little girl, shifting her vertebrae, inserting titanium rods, and fusing the bone. The surgeon had been kind but blunt about the risks: paralysis, infection, blood loss. The list of potential horrors was printed on the consent form I had signed with a shaking hand that morning. I looked at the clock on the wall. 7:42 p.m. She had gone under at 7:00 a.m. I looked at my phone. It sat on the little table next to me, screen black, battery at 18%. There were no notifications. I tapped the screen just to make sure. Maybe the silence mode was on. No, maybe I had lost signal. No, full bars. I opened my messaging app. The last message was from me, sent to the family group chat titled Family First Read at 5:30 a.m. Me heading to the hospital now. Arya is scared, but she's being brave. Surgery starts at 7. I'll keep you posted. Please pray for her. Below that at 9:00 a.m. Me, she's in. The surgeon said it will be a long day. Below that at 2:00 p.m. Me, still waiting. Nurse said vitals are stable, but it's more complex than they thought. Below that at 6:00 p.m. Me, 12 hours now, I'm terrified. Please, if anyone is free, I could really use a coffee or just 5 minutes of distraction. A silence. Not a single thumbs-up reaction, not a praying emoji, not a stay strong. Nothing. My mother, Sylvia, was retired. My father, Caleb, was retired. My brother, Lucas, worked from home as a freelance brand consultant, which mostly meant he posted photos of his lattes on Instagram. They were all free. They all had phones. I knew for a fact they saw the messages because the little, read by everyone, receipt was mocking me from the bottom of the screen. I felt a tear slide down my cheek, hot and stinging. It wasn't just fear for Arya anymore. It was a cold, creeping realization of where I stood in the hierarchy of this family. I was the eldest, the responsible one, the one who handled the logistics, the bills, the crises. I was the one they called when the roof leaked or when Lucas needed bail money, which had happened twice. But here I was, facing the most terrifying day of my life, and I was completely, utterly alone. The double doors swung open again. This time, a man in blue scrubs stepped out, pulling a mask down from his face. He looked exhausted. He looked right at me. Ileana. I shot up, my legs wobbling. Yes, is she okay? The surgeon exhaled, a long, heavy sound, and then offered a tired smile. She's out. It was difficult. The curvature was more rigid than the scans showed, but the hardware is in place. Neurological function looks good. She's waking up in recovery. I didn't mean to sob, but the sound ripped out of my throat before I could stop it. The tension of the last 13 hours snapped, leaving me trembling. Thank you, I choked out. Oh God, thank you. He patted my shoulder. You can see her in about an hour. Go get some water. You look like you're about to faint." I nodded, collapsing back into the chair as he walked away. I reached for my phone again, my thumb hovering over the group chat. I wanted to type, "She made it. She's alive." But I stopped. I scrolled up, I looked at the timestamps, I looked at the silence. They knew she was in surgery. They knew the risks. They knew I was alone, and they hadn't cared enough to type a single word. The betrayal hit me harder than the exhaustion. It was a physical ache in my chest, a heaviness that felt worse than the diagnosis itself. The next 3 days were a blur of beeping monitors, hushed whispers, and the smell of rubbing alcohol. Arya was in the high dependency unit, wired up to machines that monitored every heartbeat and breath. Her pain management was a constant battle. Seeing my vibrant, dancing 14-year-old daughter pale, swollen, and unable to turn her head without grimacing broke me into 1,000 pieces. I slept in a chair next to her bed. I didn't shower. I ate vending machine crackers. My entire universe had shrunk to the 4 walls of room 402 and the rhythmic whoosh of her oxygen support. My phone remained largely silent, save for a few texts from coworkers and Arya's friends asking how she was. From family first read, radio silence. It was the morning of the 3rd day. I was sponging Arya's forehead with a cool cloth. She was finally sleeping peacefully after a rough night of muscle spasms. My phone buzzed on the tray table, a long, sustained vibration. My heart jumped. Finally, I thought, they're calling. Maybe they were just scared. Maybe they didn't know what to say, and now they're calling to apologize and ask if they can bring food. I grabbed the phone. It wasn't a call. It was a text message from my father, Caleb. I unlocked the screen, desperate for a kind word. "Caleb, hey Ellie, hope things are good. Look, Luca's found a venue for the engagement party in Cabo. The deposit is due today or we lose the date. Total is $7,000. We're splitting it. I need you to wire $3,500 to his account by noon. Thanks." I stared at the screen. I read it once, then I read it again, then a 3rd time. Hope things are good. My daughter had 12 screws in her spine. I hadn't slept in 72 hours. I was currently wearing a sweatshirt with a coffee stain on it from 2 days ago. And he wanted $3,500 for a party. Not a "how is Arya," not a "did the surgery go okay," not even a "sorry we haven't checked in." Just a demand for cash. For Luca's. For a destination engagement party that I had already told them seemed excessive given that Luca's didn't have a job and his fiancée, a woman who once cried because her salad touched her steak, had never worked a day in her life. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't a snap, it was a sliding into place, like a heavy steel door slamming shut and locking. For years, I had justified it. They're just bad at communication, I'd tell myself. Luca's needs help getting on his feet, I'd say. Mom and Dad are on a fixed income, it's my duty to help. But this wasn't just thoughtlessness. This was a complete erasure of my existence as a human being with needs. To them, I wasn't a daughter or a sister or a mother to their grandchild. I was an ATM. I was a wallet with a pulse. I looked at Arya, sleeping fragile and broken in the hospital bed. I looked at the scar running down the back of her neck, peeking out from the bandage. I thought about the $3,500. I had the money. I was a senior logistics manager for a major shipping firm. I made good money. I had always been proud of my ability to provide for my family, to send my parents on vacations, to pay off Lucas's credit cards when he accidentally overspent. But as I looked at Caleb's text, I realized exactly where that money was going. It was going to celebrate a brother who couldn't be bothered to text me while my child was being cut open. It was going to a father who saw me as nothing more than a resource to be mined. I typed a reply, my fingers flying across the glass, trembling not with sadness, but with a cold, white-hot fury. Me, Arya is in the ICU. She had spinal fusion surgery 3 days ago. I told you this for months. You didn't call. I hit send, I waited. The 3 dots appeared immediately. Caleb, oh right, glad she's okay, but the deposit is time sensitive. Lucas is freaking out. Can you send it now? We can talk about the surgery later. We can talk about the surgery later. The air left my lungs. The audacity was so immense it was almost impressive. I looked at my banking app. I saw the joint account I shared with my parents for emergencies. I saw the credit card I had given Lucas for gas and groceries that currently had a charge for a $400 dinner at a steakhouse. I saw the auto payments set up for my parents' cell phone bills, their cable, their car insurance, their streaming services. They thought I was just Ileana, the pushover, the one who grumbled but always paid, the one who sought their approval so desperately that I would buy it over and over again. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. I work in logistics. My entire career is built on managing supply chains, identifying inefficiencies, and cutting dead weight. I know how to shut down a line. I know how to reroute resources. And most importantly, I know exactly who owns the infrastructure. They were living on my infrastructure, and they had just violated the terms of service. To understand why I didn't just scream at them, you have to understand the history. You have to understand Sylvia. My mother, Sylvia, is a woman who believes that appearance is the only currency that matters. She is beautiful, in a sharp, preserved kind of way, and she has spent her life curating a picture-perfect existence. I was never part of that picture. I was the smart one, the sturdy one. I was the one who got good grades, went to business school, and got a high-paying corporate job. I was useful, but I wasn't decorative. Lucas, on the other hand, was her masterpiece. 7 years younger than me, he was charming, handsome, and utterly useless. He was the golden child. When Lucas failed a class, it was the teacher's fault. When Lucas got fired, it was because the boss was jealous of his creativity. When Lucas crashed his car, I was the one called to pick him up and pay the deductible because, you know how sensitive he is, Ileana. He can't handle the stress. I bought into it. I spent my 20s and 30s trying to buy my way into their affection. I bought my parents their condo in Florida. Technically, it's in my name, but I let them live there rent-free. I pay the HOA fees, I pay the property tax. I pay for the family phone plan because Sylvia insisted she needed the newest iPhone to keep up with the grandkids, meaning Lucas's non-existent children, not Arya. I pay for Lucas's car insurance because he's just finding his footing. He's 32. And in return, I got to be the spectator in the Lucas show. A memory flashed in my mind, sharp and painful, last Thanksgiving. Arya had been complaining about back pain, the early stages of her condition. She was sitting on the couch, grimacing, trying to find a comfortable position. Sylvia had walked in, holding a glass of Chardonnay, and looked at her granddaughter with a sneer. "Sit up straight, Arya. You look slouchy. It's unladylike." "It hurts, Grandma," Arya had said quietly. "It hurts because you have bad posture," Sylvia snapped. Then she turned to Lucas. "Lucas, tell us about the modeling gig. Did they love the headshots?" She dismissed my daughter's pain because it ruined the aesthetic of her holiday. Just like she was dismissing her surgery now because it interfered with the engagement party narrative. I realized then that the antagonist in my life wasn't just bad luck or a difficult situation. It was Sylvia. She was the architect of this dynamic. Caleb was just the enforcer, the weak man who did whatever she said to keep the peace. And Lucas was the parasite she had cultivated. They were a trio of emotional vampires, and I had been feeding them my blood for decades. I looked at the text from Caleb again. $3,500. Lucas is freaking out. The suspicion clawed at my throat. Why $3,500? Why today? I opened Instagram. I went to the profile of Lucas's fiancée, a girl named Kinsley. Her latest story, posted 2 hours ago, showed her and Lucas holding champagne flutes. They weren't in our hometown. The geotag said, "Luxury Bridal Expo, downtown." In the video, Kinsley was squealing. "OMG, we just found the perfect custom suits for the engagement shoot. They're so expensive, but Lucas said his family is handling it. Blessed future misses. They weren't paying a venue deposit. They were buying designer clothes for a photo shoot. Caleb had lied. He had lied to me while my daughter was in the ICU, using urgency to manipulate me into funding their vanity project. The rage that had been hot turned into something cold and solid. It settled in my gut like a stone. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to call and scream. Screaming implies you care. Screaming implies you want to fix things. I didn't want to fix this. I wanted to end it. I looked at Arya one last time, promising her silently that she would never, ever be second best again. Then, I opened my banking app. I didn't initiate a transfer for $3,500. I selected the transfer option. I typed in the recipient, Luca's wedding fund. Amount 1 cent. Memo, put it toward his future. You're on your own. Then, I minimized the app and opened my notes on my phone. I began a new list. It wasn't a grocery list. It was a kill list for every single financial tether connecting me to them. AT&T Family Plan, account holder, me. State Farm Auto Insurance policy holder, me. Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Spotify, login, mine. Florida Condo Utilities, payer, me. Joint Chase checking account, primary, me. I took a deep breath. The hospital air didn't smell like torture anymore. It smelled like clarity. I didn't execute the plan in a rage. Rage is messy. Rage makes mistakes. I did it with the clinical precision of a surgeon cutting out necrotic tissue. I sat in the uncomfortable hospital chair, the only light coming from the glowing monitors around Arya's bed and the harsh blue light of my phone screen. I opened my banking app first. The joint account, the one labeled Family Emergency Fund, had a balance of $412. I frowned. That account should have had over $15,000 in it. I deposited $500 automatically every single mo. Nth, and I had been doing so for 3 years. It was supposed to be for actual emergencies, a blown transmission, a medical deductible, a roof leak at the condo. I clicked on transaction history. Withdrawal, ATM Cabo San Lucas withdrawal, ATM Cabo San Lucas POS purchase, $1,200 luxury car rental POS purchase, $350 seaside dining. My stomach churned. They weren't just asking me for money now. They had been siphoning my safety net to fund a pre-engagement vacation I didn't even know they were on. They had drained the account dry before even asking for the $3,500. I took a screenshot, then another. I documented every single unauthorized transaction for the last 6 months. Then I went to the profile section. Remove authorized user, Caleb. Remove authorized user, Sylvia. Remove authorized user, Lucas. Confirm, yes. Next, the credit cards. I had given Lucas a secondary card on my account 4 years ago when he was between jobs and needed gas money to get to interviews. Status, active. Current balance, $4,890. Limit, $5,000. I clicked on the recent charges. Suit supply, $1,200. Tiffany & Co., $650. Delta Airlines, $800. He wasn't using it for gas. He was living a life he couldn't afford on my credit score. I clicked Report Loss Stolen. Reason, unauthorized use. Action, cancel card immediately and issue new number to primary account holder only. Confirm, yes. The digital guillotine continued to fall. I logged into my AT&T account. There were 4 lines. Mine, Caleb's, Sylvia's, Lucas's. Manage line, Lucas. Suspend service, stolen device. Manage line, Caleb. Suspend service, stolen device. Manage line, Sylvia. Suspend service, stolen device. I didn't cancel the lines yet. That would take more paperwork. But suspending them for a stolen device was instantaneous. Their screens would go black within minutes. No data, no calls, no Instagram. Finally, I logged into the utility provider for the Florida condo. My parents lived there, in a property I bought, paying nothing. I paid the electric, the water, the internet. Scheduled payment, autopay, edit, cancel autopay, remove payment method. I did the same for the HOA portal. By the time I finished, it was 2:00 a.m. My thumbs were cramping. I had effectively severed every financial artery that kept their lifestyle oxygenated. I looked over at Arya. She shifted in her sleep, a small whimper escaping her lips. I reached out and gently stroked her hair, careful not to disturb the IV lines. "I'm sorry, baby," I whispered, the guilt of my own enablement washing over me. "I spent so much time trying to buy their love that I didn't realize I was stealing from your future. Never again." I wasn't just angry anymore. I was armed. I opened my email and drafted a message to my lawyer, Sarah. Subject: eviction process and financial fraud. Sarah, I need to know the eviction laws for Florida immediately. Also, I need to know my options for prosecuting unauthorized credit card use by family members. Call me as soon as you get this. I set the phone down. The silence in the room felt different now. It wasn't the silence of abandonment. It was the silence of a fortress before the siege. The fallout began at 7:00 a.m. the next morning, exactly when the bank alerts and service suspensions would have started hitting their phones. I was awake, watching the sunrise filter through the hospital blinds, painting the sterile room in soft pinks and oranges. Arya was awake too, groggy but lucid. "Mom," she rasped, her voice dry. "I'm here, sweetie, right here." I held a cup of water with a straw to her lips. "Did Grandma call?" she asked, her eyes hopeful. "Did she know I was scared?" My heart shattered. Even after everything, she just wanted to know she mattered to them. "Grandma is having some phone trouble," I said, careful not to lie but refusing to cover for them. "But look, Aunt Jenna sent you a huge teddy bear, and your friends from dance class made a video." I showed her the video on my phone, distracting her. But as she watched, a notification banner dropped down from the top of the screen. "Missed call, Mom 1 missed call, Mom 2 missed call, Mom 3. I swiped them away quickly. Then came the texts. Because I had suspended their cell service, they must have found Wi-Fi somewhere, probably the hotel lobby in Cabo. "Mom, Ileana, my phone isn't working, call me now." "Mom, the card was declined at breakfast. Everyone is staring at us. Fix this." "Dad, Ellie, what is going on? Did you get hacked? The bank account is locked." "Lucas, WTF Ileana, I'm trying to check out and my card is dead. I have Kinsley here, don't embarrass me." I felt a dark, cold satisfaction curl in my chest. They weren't worried about me. They weren't asking about Arya. They were worried about their breakfast. They were worried about checking out of a hotel they couldn't afford. The phone rang again. "Mom." I looked at Arya. She was engrossed in the dance video. "So, I have to take this, honey," I said softly. "I'll be right outside the door." I stepped into the hallway. It was shift change. Nurses were bustling back and forth. I walked to a quiet corner near the vending machines and accepted the call. "What the hell is wrong with you?" No hello, no concern. Just Sylvia's voice, shrill and vibrating with indignation. "Hello, Mother," I said, my voice shockingly steady. "I assume you're calling to ask how Arya's 13-hour spinal surgery went." "Don't you start with that guilt trip," she snapped. "We are stranded. Do you hear me? Stranded. Lucas tried to pay for the suit deposit and the card was declined. Then we went to breakfast and that card was declined. And now our phones don't work. I had to borrow the hotel manager's Wi-Fi just to call you via WhatsApp. Fix it. Transfer the money and reactivate the cards right now." "No," I said. There was a silence on the other end, a stunned, vacuum-like silence. "Excuse me." I said no, I'm not fixing it. I canceled the cards. I suspended the lines. I removed the autopay from the condo. "Are you insane?" Her voice rose an octave. "You can't just cut us off. That is our money. That is family money." "It's my money, Sylvia," I corrected her. using her first name for the first time in my life. It was money I earned. Money I shared because I thought we were a family. But families show up when a child is in the ICU. Families don't go shopping for engagement suits while their granddaughter is being cut open. We didn't go shopping, she lied, the reflex immediate. We were looking at venues, we were doing this for Lucas, it was urgent. I saw Kinsley's Instagram story. I cut in, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I saw the champagne. I saw the custom suits hashtag. I saw the timestamp. You were at a bridal expo while Arya was in recovery. You lied to me to get $3,500 for clothes. So what? She shrieked, abandoning the lie instantly. It's your brother's engagement. He only does this once. Arya will have other surgeries. The cruelty of that sentence took my breath away. Arya will have other surgeries. As if my daughter's pain was a recurring inconveniences, like a scheduled oil change, while Lucas's party was a celestial event. She won't have other surgeries if I can help it, I said, trembling with the effort to not scream. And Lucas won't have an engagement party, not on my dime. I sent him 1 cent, mother. That is the entirety of my contribution to his future. The Bank of Ileana is closed, permanently. You selfish, jealous little bitch, she hissed. You've always been jealous of him, just because your husband left you and you're alone. My husband left because I spent too much time taking care of you, I interrupted. But you're right about one thing, I am alone, and do you know what? It's cheaper. If you don't turn these cards back on, she threatened, I will tell everyone. I will tell the whole family that you stranded your elderly parents in a foreign country. I will tell them you stole our money. Go ahead, I said, tell them, but make sure you tell them why I did it. Make sure you mention Arya. Nobody cares about Arya's back, she screamed. I hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone, my heart pounding in my ears. I felt lightheaded. I had never, ever spoken to her like that. The conditioning to please her, to fear her disapproval, was deep, but her voice, nobody cares about Arya's back, had severed the last nerve. I blocked her number, then I blocked Caleb's, then Lucas's. I walked back into the room. Arya looked up. Was that Grandma? No, I said, sitting down and taking her hand. That was a wrong number. The silence I bought with the block button lasted exactly 4 hours. By noon, the flying monkeys had been deployed. This is a term my therapist used once. People the narcissist recruits to do their bidding when they can't get to you directly. My Aunt Linda, Sylvia's sister, called me. I let it go to voicemail. Voicemail. Ileana, I just got a frantic call from your mother. She is sobbing. She says they are stuck in Mexico with no money and no way to get to the airport. How could you be so cruel? They are elderly. Lucas is panicking. You need to be the bigger person here. Call me back. Then my cousin Mark, text, Hey Ileana, heard some crazy stuff. Mom says you stole Aunt Sylvia's retirement money? Not cool. Lucas said you ruined his engagement trip. Is this true? They were spinning the narrative already. I was the thief. I was the villain. They were the victims stranded in paradise. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I went deeper into the investigation. I needed ammunition. If they were going to drag my name through the mud, I needed to have the receipts to bury them. I opened my laptop on the hospital tray table while Arya napped. I pulled up my credit report. I had frozen my credit an hour ago, but I needed to see the damage. There. It was. A Chase Sapphire Reserve opened 6 months ago. Authorized user, Lucas. I hadn't opened that card. I clicked on the statements. $4,000 wedding venue deposit, Cabo. $2,500 engagement ring down payment. $1,500 bachelor party airbnb. My blood ran cold. They hadn't just asked me for the $3,500 deposit yesterday. They had already paid a deposit using a credit card opened fraudulently in my name. The $3,500 Caleb asked for wasn't for a deposit. It was likely just cash for them to spend, or to pay off the minimum balance on this card to keep me from noticing. This wasn't just familial mooching. This was identity theft. This was a felony. I called my lawyer, Sarah. She picked up on the second ring. Ileana, I got your email. Are you serious about the eviction? I'm serious about all of it, Sarah. But it's worse. I just found a credit card in my name that I didn't open. Lucas is the authorized user. There's almost $10,000 on it. Sarah's tone shifted from professional to sharp. Okay, that changes things. That's criminal fraud. If you report this, Ileana, Lucas could go to jail. Are you prepared for that? I looked at Arya. I thought about the text. Nobody cares about Arya's back. He stole from me while I was paying his insurance, I said. He stole from me while I was saving for my daughter's surgery copies. Do it. File the police report. Okay, Sarah said. I'll draft the affidavit. Now about the condo. Since there is no lease agreement and you are the sole owner, they are technically tenants at will. In Florida, we have to give them notice. But if we file for eviction based on non-payment of agreed expenses, which we can argue they were supposed to cover since you were paying everything else, we can speed it up. But the fastest way to get them out is to make it uninhabitable for them. Meaning you cancel everything. Electricity, water, internet, which you already did. You can also legally change the locks if you claim you suspect unauthorized access or theft of property inside the unit. They have keys, I said. They are in Cabo, Sarah reminded me. They aren't in the condo. If you change the locks now, while they are gone, they can't get back in without contacting you. And since you're alleging financial crimes, you have grounds to secure your property. Do it, I said. Send a locksmith to the condo today. Change the codes. Put the keys in a lockbox and do not give them the code. Consider it done, and Ileana. Yeah. Save those voicemails from your aunt. Save the texts. If they try to sue you for emotional distress or claim you promised to support them, we will use their own harassment against them. I hung up. I spent the next hour compiling a dossier. I downloaded the credit card statements. I downloaded the chat logs where they admitted to being in Cabo. I took screenshots of Kinsley's Instagram posts showing them spending lavishly. Then I crafted a single mass text. I added Aunt Linda, Cousin Mark, and the 3 other relatives who had messaged me. Since Sylvia is telling everyone I stranded them, here are the facts. 1, Arya has been in surgery for 13 hours. They didn't call. 2, they are in Cabo using a credit card Lucas opened in my name without my consent, a felony I have just reported to the police. 3, the retirement money Sylvia claims I stole is actually my own savings they drained from a joint account I used to pay their bills. 4, I am not an ATM. I am a mother protecting her child. Anyone who has a problem with that can pay Lucas's legal fees when he gets arrested at the airport. I attached the screenshot of the fraudulent credit card statement and the photo of Arya in the ICU with all the tubes. Do not contact me again unless it is to ask about Arya. I hit send. The phone didn't ring again. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was the stunned silence of a room where a grenade had just gone off. I had built my case. I had locked the gates. Now, I just had to wait for them to come home and face the ruin they had created. The silence I had bought didn't last forever, but it lasted long enough for me to get Arya home. Discharge day was a production, but a happy one. I hired a private medical transport because my SUV wasn't comfortable enough for her spine yet. When we pulled into the driveway of our house, the one I paid for, the one that was my sanctuary, I felt a physical weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I wasn't checking my phone for a crisis involving Lucas. I wasn't dreading a call from Sylvia about a medical emergency that turned out to be a broken nail or a desire for attention. But I knew the storm hadn't passed. It had just relocated. 2 days after I brought Arya home, my Aunt Linda called. This time I answered. Ileana, she said, her voice tight. They're back. They somehow got a flight using one of Caleb's old rewards accounts I didn't know about. They are at my house. Kinsley is here too. They are threatening to go to the police and report you for elder abuse and theft of funds. Let them, I said calmly, arranging Arya's pillows on the couch. Ileana, please, Linda sighed. I can't deal with this. Sylvia is hysterical. She's tearing my house apart. She says she's going to sue you for emotional distress and for ruining the wedding. We need to settle this. Can you come over, just for an hour? Bring the proof you talked about. If you don't come, I think she's actually going to call the cops on you. I paused. I looked at Arya, who was happily watching a movie, a calm expression on her face that I hadn't seen in months. Okay, I said. I'll be there in 30 minutes. But Linda, tell them to have a seat, and tell Kinsley to stay. She needs to hear this more than anyone. I called my neighbor, a retired nurse who adored Arya, to sit with her. Then I grabbed the thick manila folder from my home office, the dossier, as Sarah had called it, and drove to Aunt Linda's. When I walked into Linda's living room, the atmosphere was so thick with tension it felt humid. Sylvia was draped across Linda's floral armchair like a tragic heroine in a Victorian opera. She had a cold compress on her head. Caleb was pacing by the fireplace, looking red-faced and sweaty. Lucas was sitting at the dining table, scrolling on his phone, looking bored but anxious. Kinsley sat opposite him, her arms crossed, her designer bag clutched to her chest like a shield. My Uncle Bob and Aunt Linda stood by the kitchen island, looking like hostages in their own home. She's here, Sylvia shrieked as soon as I stepped through the door. She sat up, the compress falling to the floor. The thief is here, you ungrateful, spiteful little. Sit down, Mother, I said. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke with the flat, bored authority of a judge who had seen this case 1,000 times. Don't you tell me what to do. Sylvia stood up, pointing a shaking finger at me. You stranded us. You humiliated us. Kinsley's parents had to wire us money for the hotel bill because you stole our cards. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? I didn't steal your cards, I said, walking to the dining table and dropping the folder with a heavy thud in front of Kinsley. I canceled my cards, the ones you were using. They were family cards, Caleb shouted, stepping forward. We had an agreement. I raised you. I put a roof over your head. And I've paid for that roof for the last 10 years, I countered, locking eyes with him. I paid the mortgage on the Florida condo. I paid the HOA. I paid the electric. I paid for the car you drove to the airport. I paid for the phone you used to demand $3,500 while my daughter was in the ICU. We needed that money for the deposit. Lucas chimed in, whining. You knew how important this venue was, Ileana. You did this on purpose just to sabotage me because you're a bitter, lonely divorcee. Kinsley looked at Lucas, then at me. He said you managed the family trust, she said, her voice quiet. Lucas said the accounts were frozen because of a banking error you caused. I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. A trust. Kinsley, there is no trust. There is no family money. There is just my salary. Liar, Sylvia screamed. She's lying, Kinsley. She's trying to break you two up. She's jealous of your love. Open the folder, Kinsley, I said. Kinsley hesitated, her manicured nails hovering over the manila edge. Don't you dare! Lucas lunged for the folder, but Uncle Bob stepped in, blocking him. Bob had always been quiet, but he was a big man. Let her look, Lucas, Bob rumbled. Kinsley flipped the folder open. The first page was the credit card statement. That's the card Lucas uses, Kinsley said, frowning. The Chase Sapphire. Look at the name on the account holder line, I said. She squinted. Ileana. Wait, authorized user, Lucas. I didn't open that card, I told her. Lucas opened it using my social security number 6 months ago. He's been intercepting the statements. That $15,000 limit, he maxed it out. On what? Look at the charges. Kinsley's eyes widened. Club Sapphire, the Diamond District, Cabo Luxury Rentals. She looked up at Lucas. You said your parents paid for the ring. You said it was a family heirloom setting. It is, Lucas stammered. I mean, I was going to pay her back. It was a loan. It wasn't a loan, I said. It was identity theft, and I've already filed the police report. The detectives are just waiting for him to land, which, congratulations, you just did. You called the police on your own brother, Aunt Linda gasped, hand over her mouth. He stole $10,000 from me, Linda, I said, turning to her. But that's not the worst part. Turn the page, Kinsley. Kinsley flipped the page. It was a printout of the text logs. Read the timestamps, I instructed. D. 8 January 14th. Time, 7:00 a.m. to 8:00 p.m. That's the day of the surgery, Kinsley whispered. Read the messages in the Family First chat, I said. Kinsley read aloud, her voice trembling. Heading to hospital, she's in, 12 hours now, I'm terrified. No one replied. No one, I said. Now look at the next page. The group chat between Sylvia, Caleb, and Lucas that I found on the iPad they left at my house last Christmas. It syncs with their phones. I had found this gem just before leaving the house. The iPad Sylvia left behind for Arya to play games on was still logged into her iMessage. Kinsley read the screen captures from the other chat. Sylvia 10:00 a.m. surgery day. Ileana keeps texting about the surgery. It's so depressing. Don't reply or she'll ask us to come sit in the waiting room. We have the tasting at noon. Lucas 10:05 a.m. Yeah, ignore it. If she calls, just say we have bad service. Did you bring the checkbook? Kinsley wants to look at linens. Caleb 10:10 a.m. I'll handle Ileana later. Let's focus on the party. The room went dead silent. Even Sylvia stopped panting. Kinsley looked up from the paper. She looked at Sylvia, who was suddenly very interested in the pattern of the rug. She looked at Lucas, who was pale as a sheet. You ignored her daughter's spinal surgery. For a tasting? Kinsley asked. It wasn't like that, Sylvia shrieked. We knew she was fine. Ileana always exaggerates. Arya is fine. She was in the ICU for 3 days, I said, my voice cutting like a razor. And when I finally got you on the phone, Sylvia, do you remember what you said? Do you remember the last thing you said to me before I blocked you? Sylvia glared at me with pure hatred. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone. I recorded the call, Mother. One-party consent state, remember? I pressed play. The volume was all the way up. Sylvia's screeching voice filled Aunt Linda's living room. If you don't turn these cards back on, I will tell everyone. You stole our money. Then my voice. Make sure you mention Arya. Then Sylvia. Nobody cares about Arya's back. The recording ended. Kinsley stood up. She closed the folder. She didn't look at me. She looked at Lucas. You told me your family was wealthy, she said, her voice deadly calm. You told me your sister was the black sheep who was bad with money. You told me you bought the ring with your investment dividends. Babe, listen, Lucas pleaded, reaching for her. I can explain. She's manipulating everything. She's crazy. Kinsley slapped him. It was a sharp, loud crack that echoed off the walls. My brother has cerebral palsy, Kinsley spat. I spent my entire childhood in hospitals. If you think I would ever marry a man who could ignore his niece's surgery for a tasting menu, you are out of your mind. She pulled the engagement ring off her finger, the ring bought with my stolen credit, and dropped it into the folder. I'm done, she said. I'm leaving, and Lucas, don't follow me. My dad is a prosecutor. If you come near me, I'll make sure Ileana's lawsuit is the least of your problems. She walked out the front door, slamming it behind her. Lucas stared at the door, then turned his rage on me. You ruined my life, you B***, you ruined everything. He lunged at me again, but Uncle Bob grabbed him by the collar and shoved him back into the chair. That's enough, Bob roared. Get out, all of you, get out of my house. Bob, Sylvia gasped. You can't be serious, we're family. No, Aunt Linda said, stepping up beside her husband. She was crying, but she looked angry. Ileana is family, Arya is family, you're monsters. I heard the tape, Sylvia. Nobody cares about Arya's back. Get out, don't call us for money, don't call us for a place to stay. You are on your own. Sylvia looked around the room, waiting for someone to save her. But the audience had left the theater. There was no one left to applaud. "Fine," she spat, grabbing her purse. "Come on, Caleb. Come on, Lucas. We don't need them. We'll find a lawyer. We'll sue you for everything you have, Ileana." "You have nothing to sue with," I said as they shuffled toward the door. "And nowhere to go. I changed the locks on the condo this morning. Your keys won't work." Sylvia froze in the doorway. The color drained from her face completely. For the first time, the reality hit her. No home, no cards, no car, no victim to bail her out. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I would," I said, "and I did. Goodbye, Mother." She didn't scream this time. She just looked at me with a terrifying mixture of fear and loathing, and then she walked out into the cold, gray afternoon, followed by a defeated Caleb and a sobbing Lucas. I stood there in the silence they left behind, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The fallout was swift and absolute. Because I had filed the poli. See report before the confrontation, the wheels of justice were already turning. Lucas was arrested 2 days later at a motel they were staying at, using a bad check, ironically. The DA didn't go easy on him. With Kinsley's father making a few calls and my evidence of the identity theft, Lucas was looking at real time. He eventually took a plea deal, 3 years of probation, restitution of the $10,000, and a permanent felony record. He works at a car wash now. I saw him once from a distance, wiping down the rims of a Mercedes. He looked older. He didn't see me. My parents didn't sue. Lawyers cost money, and they had none. Without my credit cards and the condo, their house of cards collapsed. They were forced to move into a small, subsidized one-bedroom apartment in a town 3 hours away. Caleb had to go back to work as a greeter at a hardware store to supplement their social security. Sylvia, stripped of her country club status and her perfect family narrative, became a recluse. I haven't spoken to them since that day at Aunt Linda's. Aunt Linda tells me they still complain about me to anyone who will listen, painting themselves as martyrs abandoned by a cruel daughter. But no one in the family listens anymore. The recording of Sylvia's voice, "Nobody cares about Arya's back," circulated through the family grapevine. It was the inoculation that prevented their lies from ever taking root again. But the real resolution wasn't about their punishment. It was about our healing. 6 months after the surgery, Arya was cleared to dance again. I sat in the auditorium for her first recital back. The lights dimmed and the music started. It was a contemporary piece, slow and emotional. When Arya leaped, her spine straight and strong, tears streamed down my face. She wasn't in pain. She wasn't hunched over. She was flying. I looked at the empty seats beside me. In the past, I would have saved them. I would have texted Sylvia and Caleb, begging them to come, hoping that this time they would show up. I would have spent the entire performance anxious, checking the door, feeling the hollow ache of their absence. But tonight, the seats weren't empty because of them. They were filled with Aunt Linda, Uncle Bob, and my friends, the people who had brought casseroles, the people who had texted, the people who had shown up. Arya finished her solo, striking a pose in the spotlight, a beaming smile on her face. She looked out into the audience, searching. She found me instantly. She waved. I waved back, blowing her a kiss. I realized then that I hadn't lost a family. I had pruned a dead limb so that the rest of the tree could survive. I had $3,500 in my savings account that wasn't going to a destination party. I had a daughter who knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that she was the most important thing in my world. The drive home that night was quiet. Arya fell asleep in the passenger seat, clutching a bouquet of roses Aunt Linda had given her. I stopped at a red light and looked at my phone. It was peaceful, no frantic texts, no demands, no guilt trips. I drove on, into a future that finally, truly belonged to us.